Hi everyone. I know Abigail mentioned it off the top, but for those who are joining us for the first time, my name's Tom Shearing. I'm part of the Digital Architecture team within ICT Services, and I look after Apple platforms across both of our school, preschool, and corporate environments. Joining me today is Emily Clark from Jamf, who's our Customer Success Manager. I'll turn it over to Emily for an intro to get started shortly, but today's session, we're going to be focusing on automated device enrollment profiles, so looking at some templates, best practices, enrollment workflows, and placeholders. So with that, Emily, I'll turn it over to you for an intro and to get started.
As Tom has said, my name is Emily and I am the Customer Success Manager for Jamf. Here today we are going to talk about ADE profiles, some best practices around them, and how we can use placeholders to create personalised enrolment workflows. So as I just touched on, we are going to talk about our options for enrolment workflows within Jamf School, automated device enrolments, using placeholders for personalisation, building automated workflows, some best practices, and some Q&A. So we do have three options for enrolment within Jamf School. We have automated device enrolment, which allows you to automate the enrolment process and prevent users from removing the MDM profile from their devices. This is the enrolment method recommended by Apple. By enrolling devices using automated device enrolment, you can use all the device management capabilities Jamf School offers. We also have Apple Configurator. You can use Apple Configurator to supervise mobile devices and enrol them via automated device enrolment in Jamf School. You can also use Apple Configurator if you want to use automated device enrolment, but your devices are not in Apple School Manager, such as donated devices or devices that you might have purchased outside your leasing cycle. You can use Apple Configurator on a phone to add them to Apple School Manager. You can also use Apple Configurator to activate supervision on devices with the intent to manually enrol the devices in Jamf School later. And the final option that we have is our user enrolment and on-device enrolment options. That allows you to manually enrol a device in Jamf School. Enrolling devices using user enrolment or on-device enrolment results in an unsupervised device state. Users can remove the MDM profile on devices enrolled via user enrolment, and you cannot use all the management capabilities on them. As a result of this, it is recommended that you only enrol devices with user enrolment or on-device enrolment if you cannot enrol them within Apple School Manager, or if it's a personally owned device. As automated device enrolment is the recommended method, we're going to focus on this one today. So automated device enrolment allows new and recently erased devices to be automatically enrolled into Jamf School. For automated device enrolment to happen, the device must be at Setup Assistant. Therefore, it's only applicable to newly purchased devices or devices that have been wiped. As mentioned in the previous slides, automated device enrolment gives us full management and control over a device. Through ADE, we're able to enforce and prevent users from removing the MDM profile and therefore management, guaranteeing ongoing management capabilities. With ADE, we're able to achieve zero-touch deployments, streamline onboarding processes, ensure a consistent end-user experience, and enforce accurate inventory information. Before we can use automated device enrolment in Jamf School, we need to ensure that the device is purchased through the correct channels so that the purchase is logged through Apple School Manager. Within Apple School Manager, we then need to ensure that our devices are assigned to our MDM server. With our automated device enrolment token in Jamf School, we will now see our devices listed under automated device enrolment in the Jamf School interface. As mentioned earlier, if you have a device that is not listed in Apple School Manager, you can use your Apple Configurator on iPhone to add the device to ASM and therefore have it come up in this screen and go through the ADE process through the profiles as if it would have been purchased through Apple School Manager in the first place. Token information must sync through to Jamf School. While this usually happens immediately, we recommend waiting up to 15 minutes before you panic or think that it's not come through. And if the device doesn't appear, then you can force a sync within Jamf School. Now that we have our devices listed and available for assigning in Jamf School, we need to look at creating our automated device enrolment profiles. Automated device enrolment profiles allow us to customise the enrolment experience and set some default settings to be applied to devices immediately on enrolment. Through our ADE profiles, we can set things like a default format for the device name, what screens are showed through Setup Assistant, configure whether the device should be provisioned as an Apple shared iPad, and enforce enrolment security settings such as authenticated enrolment and whether the MDM profile is able to be removed by the user. We will just jump over quickly to Jamf School and have a look at the settings that are available. So if we go into profiles and then automated device enrolment profiles, I'm inside your DFE instance and under a Jamf School training tenant or location, sorry. And here we can see all of our automated device enrolment profiles, and we can have a look, click through into one of these and see what settings we have available. So here you can see that you can set some support information, the device name, and we'll touch on this a bit later about what these funny looking things mean. Here we can set our settings for what screens we see within Setup Assistant. So how many screens do we want the user to have to click through, or the IT person to have to click through when they're setting up the device? The ones that are unticked are the ones that show. We can wait for the final configuration before continuing the Setup Assistant. Just means we can wait for some the configuration profiles to be put down before it quits out. And we can have some settings over here that we might want to set by default, and the particular one here that I wanted to point out is allow removal of the MDM profile. As we want to control full management, we want to ensure that that always stays on, so we want that to be unticked. And here is our option where if we wanted to turn these devices into shared iPads, we would enable this option here. We can also have an end user agreement pop up that, with some text for the user to agree to before they start using their device. And this is where we can control whether we have any authentication information. But we're going to pop into those in a bit more detail in a few moments. So now that we know that the settings that we have available, let's understand why we might create different types of profiles. So for example, you might create different profiles for common or shared devices. Perhaps you'll have a profile that is for your one-to-one devices that are in the younger grade, and you want IT to be doing the provisioning of these devices. And then you might have a zero-touch devices where the user is given the device straight from the box and is guided through the setup process. So I'll now hand over to Tom, who will show you the different types of profiles that have been created in your tenant.
Thanks, Emily. I won't dwell too much on this section because you've already provided us with a brief overview of kind of how this functionality looks and works. But currently in our central Jamf school, we have 12 template automated device enrolment profiles, as you can see on the screen there. So there's seven school templates and 5 corporate templates. So in the context of everyone on the call today, I'd imagine it's only going to be the school ones that are of interest to you. So out of those 7, we've got 3 there for iPad automated device enrolments, 1 for Apple TV and 3 for Mac. And they all talk to the different ways in which these devices can be set up and configured. So with iPad, that's obviously the main one, or the main device type that our schools are deploying. So in that first column, first row there, you've got a one-to-one iPad, which is set up to be used for with enrolment authentication, which is where the end user setting up the device is presented with a setup screen to authenticate using EdPass. which assigns them as the user or the owner of the device in Jamf School. So this is great and is specific for one-to-one deployments where you're actually providing the device to the end user to go through and set up. That may not be common practice for our schools and our ICT teams, where we're probably still more in the habit of provisioning devices and giving them to end users in a ready-to-go state. But through kind of automated device enrolment and zero-touch deployment, with functionality such as enrolment auth, you can actually allow the end user to do that where appropriate. Second one there in the second column is for shared iPad, which allows iPad to be used in a personally enabled but shared way, which facilitates an individualized user logon experience on a shared iPad device. So this is great for environments where you don't have one-to-one across your student cohort. So students can keep content separate on a shared device, which allows for, as I said, a greater personalized experience and just separation of content. Then finally, in the last column, you've got the Apple TV one there in the middle, which is pretty self-explanatory. All Apple TVs are kind of set up the same sort of way. You've got the communal, what we call the communal device option, which is, I suppose, I would imagine is the most common option for iPads being set up and deployed for students. It's like a one-to-one deployment, but that device is shared communally. So this is going to be what students are probably most familiar with. You can passcode protect it, or you can just have it unlocked completely. I suppose the drawback of this model, though, is that there's no way to keep content separate. It's all just within that same device context. There's no user context associated with it. And then you've got 3 for Mac as well. I won't dwell too much on Mac today, given that it's, I suppose used in a bit more of a minority, but you've got different deployments there for, once again, one-to-one Mac, shared Mac, and there's some customized sort of third-party software where we can use to create that login experience on Mac using either local AD credentials or our central at-schools identity as well. Might get you to go next slide, please, Emily. What I specifically wanted to talk to in this slide here is just with regards to creating your automated device enrolment profile templates. So it is worth pointing out that those templates can't be duplicated. So you've got to use the settings from within them and create your own templates. So when you click the button to create a new iOS or tvOS or macOS ADE profile, you'll get screens pop up that look like the ones on the right of the slide there. So this is obviously one for an iOS ADE profile. The settings are slightly different depending on which one you choose. But these key things that I've highlighted there and which I've noted in the text on the left-hand side are kind of some things we want you to consider when creating these profiles. So with the profile name, you want to give it something distinct, right? So a recommended convention is something like, staff name, site number, and then staff one-to-one iPad or student communal iPad, depending on what type of profile you're setting up. Setting the device name. So this can be done either using placeholder information, which Emily alluded to earlier, and we'll touch on further shortly, or you can leave it blank. And then there's other ways in which you can name your devices afterwards, such as using placeholder information, which once again, Emily will come to. Then you've got the option for selecting shared iPad. So if you want to set a device up using the shared iPad mode, there is a tick box explicitly to enable that. Activation lock, typically recommended to leave this as disabled. We tend not to see a need to enable MDM activation lock for within the school environment. However, if that is something you want to explore, there is the option to do so. And then so the option to skip all these steps, this should be fairly familiar to most people who have enrolled devices into MDM, whether it be Jamf School or Meraki or another MDM. So you can select which of the setup assistance screens you want to present to the end user. And once again, this is going to have implications depending on who's doing the setup. So if it's ICT setting up the device, you're probably going to want to skip most of those screens because otherwise you're going to have to be tapping through all of them, and it's just going to take you a lot longer to provision devices. With respect to the only, if you can see there at the top of that second screenshot on the far left, the far right, the only option we tend not to skip is the location services screen. The reason being for that is that location services are used for a number of functions, such as assisting with reporting device location, and also also within specific apps which require that functionality. If you skip location services, it gets disabled by default, and typically we're going to want that enabled. So by leaving that unskipped, that'll be the only screen you'll typically have to see once the device is enrolled into MDM as part of the setup workflow. You just need to tap on the enable button to enable that. And then finally, onboarding. So onboarding is that functionality we spoke to before, enrolment authentication, where you can have end users, if they're setting up the device, to put in their EdPass credentials and authenticate using their own credentials, which assigns them as the owner of the device in Jamf School. And this can just be useful to identify from within the devices inventory section in Jamf School, who uses or who owns which device. And then you can also use, that particular field to populate it into the device name or for scoping content to those devices. So that's just some considerations around creating enrolment profiles. With that, Emily, I'll turn it back to you.
So when we have created our automated device enrolment profiles, we do need to assign our devices to them. So if we do have just one automated device profile for iOS or iPadOS and one for computers, we can tick a box to say automatically assign this device type to this profile, but often we have more than one. So that we do need to have a process of assigning these devices. So we can do that through our Jamf School interface. Here we see the automated device enrolment section under devices, automated device enrolment. We can then, if we select one of those devices, so here in this example, we can see that the bottom two already have an automated device enrolment profile assigned to them, but the top one there has either come through after some assignment was done, if we had an automatically assign tick turned on, or we just haven't assigned it yet. So when we do tick that box on the left-hand side, or multiple boxes, we do get the additional menu at the top where we get assign profile. And here we can click on that button and pick the automated device enrolment profile that we have created that we want to assign it to. So therefore, we'll get those customized settings. The other place that we can assign an automated device enrolment profile is through that placeholder information that Tom has sort of mentioned, and we are going to look at that in the next few slides. Oh, I think I missed one. Nope. Sorry. So as we have touched on, we do have something that is called placeholders. So our ADE profiles help us to get most of the heavy lifting done for automated enrolment of our devices. But let's take a look at the next powerhouse of Jamf School and automated device enrolment workflows. These are what we call ADE placeholders. Placeholders in Jamf School create a pre-enrolment record for devices enrolled via automated device enrolment. They allow you as an admin to pre-populate critical device and user information into Jamf School for the device to consume and populate to the device inventory record as soon as the device is enrolled. Using placeholders, we can create personalised and dynamic workflows to automatically assign users, device names, app assignments, and profiles on enrolment. We can also assign which automated device enrolment profile is to be used for the enrolment. If we are creating shared class sets, we can use our placeholders to automatically assign a group of devices to a specific group that can then be used to scope our applications appropriately. The key to a successful mass deployment with placeholders is planning. So let's take a look now at how we create our placeholders and the information that we can pre-populate with them. We can create placeholder information in two ways. The first being in the Jamf School interface under Devices Placeholders. Here you can click on Add Placeholder and populate the details for a device individually. The first two fields are the only required fields. The first being placeholder identification. This field is simply used to identify the placeholder record. Some people use this to identify if the device is a mobile device or a computer, or a staff or a student device. It's simply a text field that does not have to be unique. It's simply there to identify the placeholder record. The second is the serial number. The serial number is used to look up the record as the device enrolls. So this is our matching record to pull through that placeholder information. All other fields are optional, but using these fields can help us with creating dynamic workflows. As you can see, you can select device groups. This will mean that as soon as the device is enrolled, it will become part of this device group or groups. These can only be a static group, but perhaps you might create a group for all your Year 6 devices, for example. You can also use Jamf school variables in placeholder information. We'll touch on this a bit more later, but a great use case for this is for the device name. Perhaps you have a naming convention of iPad and the full username. You can set this using your Jamf school variables in your ADE profile, and as soon as the user is assigned from the placeholder information, the information will be automatically populated on enrolment on the device. One thing to note when assigning users, the user must already exist in Jamf school to be able to be assigned. As you are syncing in the DFE environment class data across from Apple School Manager, this should not be a problem for your one-to-one devices. So let's now take a look at how we use the import method to create a bulk set of placeholder information. This method is perfect for the beginning of the year. From the device holders placeholders section within Jamf School, we can click on the Import Placeholders button. Here you can download a CSV template file for populating our placeholder information. Once again, we only have two fields that are required, the serial number and the identification field. Getting a bulk list of your serial numbers can be done pretty easily by exporting from ASM or from your asset management tool. You can also gather that information by scanning the serial number on the boxes as you are assigning your devices to areas of the school. You can go through and prepare your CSV file and any other information that you might wish to populate on enrolment. Remembering that this information will allow you to create device groups for creating personalised provisioning workflows for your devices. If you're using a placeholder file to assign users, ensure the username is used in the Assign to User field and the user already exists in Jamf School. As mentioned previously, we can use this placeholder import file to set the ADE profile. This field doesn't appear automatically in the template file that is downloaded, so you will need to add that additional column. This allows us to assign our ADE profile to the device and customize that enrolment workflow as soon as the device starts to enroll. Once we've populated our CSV file, we can upload this to Jamf School and our placeholder records will be created. Something to take note of when performing the upload. If you want to create new device groups based on the information that you included in the Member of Groups column, then ensure that you tick the box to create your groups. And another handy hint, this placeholder file can be used to update details on already enrolled devices. So, for example, if you wanted to update the device name, or maybe you have a class set that you're moving to a new class, you could update the username field to move devices from class A to class B, or whatever field that you've used to identify your class information. Using this method, the device information in Jamf School will update immediately, but the details on the device will only update at next check-in. So that's just by ticking that apply properties from the CSV to already enrolled devices. This will update the information within Jamf School. If you need to make any changes to your placeholder data once you've uploaded, you can do this at an individual record level in the devices placeholders section, or you can re-upload your file with the changes. So now let's have a look at how we can use that placeholder information for personalised deployment. If we take a step back and look at our automated device enrolment profiles, we can see that there are some text-based inventory fields in here that we can use the Jamf School variables to create personalised device names as an example. Here we've got the full name and the location name. Perhaps we might, a great example of using this data to create a dynamic workflow is that if we have that, if we were to use the member of groups field in the device name, we could actually create a workflow for our class set devices where that member of group was in the device name, and we could then create a smart group based off that field, and as soon as the device enrolled, it will fall into that group. So therefore, we're not having to worry about picking those devices out. We can just create a dynamic set of groups, a dynamic group of devices that we can automatically scope the apps and everything that we need to them. As a note, if you are setting the device name in your ADE profile, but you also provide a device name in your placeholder information, the device name format from the ADE profile will take precedence. So these variables in this set device name can be customized to suit your purposes. And if you click on the little blue link underneath here, you'll get a full list of the Jamf School variables available that are available to be used in this field. We can also use our placeholder information to create smart groups and use this for scoping our profiles and apps, creating a streamlined onboarding process for our users and ensuring that that users receive the apps and configurations they need straight out of the box. Remembering that as soon as a device enrolls, it consumes the placeholder information and the information becomes available in the device inventory record. Smart groups in Jamf School are dynamic groups that automatically include or exclude devices based on specific criteria. You can configure smart groups to use the inventory information originally from placeholders as their criteria. For example, teacher devices, so the devices assigned to the users in the teacher's user group, for example. Once your smart groups are defined, you simply assign your desired applications, profiles, and documents directly to these smart groups. As soon as a device enrolls or meets the smart group criteria, it automatically becomes a member of the relevant smart groups. Jamf School then automatically pushes the assigned apps and configurations to that device without any manual intervention. So in summary, ADE is the foundation, provides the essential framework for truly zero-touch supervised and mandatory device enrolment. Our ADE profiles are our enrolment blueprint. These profiles dictate the initial device setup experience, streamlining activation and ensuring immediate MDM controls. Our placeholders are pre-planning for personalisation. By creating placeholders manually or in bulk, your pre-stage critical device and user data laying the groundwork for customised deployments before devices are even unboxed. Our Jamf School variables are the power of dynamic data. Jamf School variables leverage placeholder information and other device attributes to dynamically configure device names, user settings, and application assignments, eliminating the need for manual input by our IT teams. Our smart groups create automated assignment, dynamically organising devices based on criteria, often pulled from placeholder data, ensuring that the right apps and configurations are automatically delivered to the right devices. So I did just want to add in something else. So we've all, through this presentation, been talking about what happens, well, providing information pre-enrolment. But sometimes we don't have that information, or sometimes we just have different workflows that don't support a pre-enrolment user assignment information. So we have recently released a tool called Class Assigner by Jamf. Jamf Class Assigner is available to simplify the device to user assignment in a classroom or shared environment, particularly for iPads that are already enrolled in Jamf School. It provides a seamless way for teachers to quickly assign students to iPads on the fly. So perhaps your provisioning workflow is to simply place a class set of iPads in a classroom, not caring who picks up which device to become their own. This is where a class assigner comes into its power, alleviating the need for IT admins to assign devices and empowering teachers to easily assign the devices to the students as they start using them. So we'll have a little look at what that looks like. So Class Assigner is an app that is deployed to both student and teacher devices. It uses our managed app config, which we have talked about in a previous session in Jamf School, to configure the app for the teacher or for the student workflow. So they both use the same app, but we use our managed app config to control whether the teacher workflow is shown or the student workflow. So that can be one app entry within Jamf School and two managed app configs where we select which managed app config is deployed down to which devices. The teacher launches the app on their device and the class information is automatically populated from Jamf School and they only see the classes that they're already assigned to. They simply select their class, select the student, and a QR code is generated on the fly for that student. Then we jump over to the student's device. The student launches the app on their device, scans the QR code from the teacher's device, and the device is automatically assigned to that student in Jamf School. We can then use our dynamic workflows with our smart groups and good planning of your application and profile scoping, and you could dynamically change the apps available on the student's device between users. So it could be used in a shared environment, or it could be used as just having that one-to-one environment where you're not sure who's going to pick up a device, you haven't pre-assigned them, and you want those to be assigned on day one. They can be assigned by the teacher and remove that need for IT to be involved on that day one start day. And here are some bonus JNUC sessions that might be quite helpful in following up on the topics that we've discussed today. So that the first one is the class assigner, specifically showing how that works and how to configure that. And the streamlined device deployment with placeholders is presented from another school. So not a Jamf presentation, but from another school who has used it in their environment and how they're using it. And I will throw it open to questions.